Talk to me, pick up. Come on, mate, come on! How you doing? I'm back.
Stone hands.
What do you do when you're not climbing, Doug?
I deliver the mail.
First in this room, you wouldn't be here without it.
But Everest is the most dangerous place on earth.
How's the weather?
I wish I was with you.
We'll all go climbing together next time. The three.
Morning, people!
These human beings simply aren't built to function. Cruising altitude gets you up to the top, down to the bottom. Before that happens.
Welcome to Z Cineplex, say your ultimate entertainment destination. Welcome to Z Cineplex, the home of entertainment, creativity, and cinematic excitement. Our channel is dedicated to bringing viewers a rich collection of engaging content that celebrates the world of movies, storytelling, and visual entertainment. Whether you're a passionate film enthusiast, someone who enjoys discovering new cinematic experiences, or simply looking for high-quality entertainment, Z Cineplex is designed to be your go-to destination. We strive to create content that is informative, enjoyable, and engaging for audiences of all ages, offering a unique blend of movie-related features, entertainment updates, insightful discussions, creative videos, and much more. Every upload is crafted with attention to quality, ensuring that our viewers receive an enjoyable experience that keeps them coming back for more. At Z Cineplex, we believe that cinema is more than just watching films. It's about experiencing emotions, exploring stories, appreciating creativity, and connecting with people who share the same passion for entertainment. Our mission is to build a vibrant community where movie lovers and entertainment enthusiasts can discover exciting content, share their opinions, and stay connected with the latest trends in the entertainment industry. We are committed to consistently improving our content, embracing new ideas, and delivering videos that entertain, inform, and inspire our growing audience. Whether you're here for movie highlights, entertainment discussions, reviews, cinematic moments, or fresh creative content, Z Cineplex promises an enjoyable journey filled with excitement, quality, and unforgettable entertainment. Join our community by subscribing, turning on notifications, and becoming part of the Z Cineplex family as we continue to explore the fascinating world of cinema and entertainment together. Thank you for your support, and welcome to Z Cineplex, where every video brings entertainment to life. Everest is a 2015 biographical survival disaster film directed and produced by Baltasar and written by William Nicholson and Simon Beaufoy. Based on the true story of the 1996 Mount Everest disaster, the film chronicles one of the most devastating tragedies in the history of high-altitude mountaineering, when a sudden and ferocious blizzard engulfed several climbing teams near the summit of the world's highest mountain, ultimately claiming the lives of 8 climbers and leaving many others stranded in the notorious death zone above 8,000 meters, 26,247 feet. Rather than focusing solely on the disaster itself, the film presents a comprehensive and emotionally grounded portrayal of the days leading up to the fatal summit attempt, exploring the immense physical, mental, and emotional challenges faced by climbers attempting to conquer Mount Everest. It examines the growing commercialization of Himalayan expeditions during the 1990s, the difficult decisions made by expedition leaders under extreme conditions, the unpredictable nature of high-altitude weather, and the extraordinary courage, endurance, and selflessness displayed by both professional guides and amateur climbers during one of the mountain's darkest moments. Featuring an acclaimed ensemble cast led by Jason Clarke, Jake Gyllenhaal, Josh Brolin, Job Hawks, Robin Wright, Michael Kelly, Sam Worthington, Keira Knightley, Martin Henderson, Emily Watson, Thomas M. Wright, Ingvar Egert Sigurd de Griesen, Clive Standen, and Mia Goth. The film follows two rival yet mutually respectful commercial expeditions operating on Everest during the 1996 climbing season. Jason Clarke portrays legendary New Zealand mountaineer Rob Hull, founder of the adventure consultants guiding company, while Jake Gyllenhaal plays the charismatic American climber Scott Fisher, leader of Mountain Madness, alongside them are a diverse group of clients and experienced Sherpa guides, each bringing their own personal motivations, ambitions, fears, and relationships to the expedition. As the climbers make their arduous ascent through the Khumbu Icefall, Western CWM, Lots Face, South Col, and finally toward the summit, the film highlights the physical effects of extreme altitude, oxygen deprivation, exhaustion, frostbite, and rapidly changing weather conditions. When a catastrophic storm unexpectedly descends on the mountain during the climber's descent, the expedition quickly transforms from a triumphant summit bid into a desperate struggle for survival, forcing individuals to make impossible life-and-death decisions while separated by darkness, blinding snow, and hurricane-force winds. Praised for its commitment to authenticity, Everest was filmed across several challenging locations, including the Italian Alps, Nepal, Iceland, and the Cinecittà Studios in Rome, with extensive visual effects used to recreate the Himalayan environment. Kormakur sought to depict the events with as much realism as possible, drawing inspiration from survivor accounts, historical records, and multiple first-hand perspectives rather than adopting a single source. The film combines breathtaking large-scale spectacle with intimate character-driven storytelling, emphasizing not only the terrifying power of nature but also the emotional bonds between teammates, friends, and families waiting anxiously thousands of miles away. Through parallel storylines following loved ones back home, including Rob Hull's pregnant wife Jen Arnold, Keira Knightley, and Beck Weathers' wife Peach Weathers, Robin Wright. The narrative underscores the profound personal cost of high-risk exploration and the devastating impact of the disaster on those left behind. The production was dedicated to the memory of the late British actress Natasha Richardson, with the dedication shared by director Baltasar Kormakur and the production companies Universal Pictures, Walden Media, Cross Creek Pictures, and Working Title Films. Recognizing her close connection to the mountaineering community through her husband, actor Liam Neeson, and honoring her legacy. Everest had its world premiere as the opening night film of the 72nd Venice International Film Festival on September 2, 2015, where it received widespread acclaim for its technical achievements, immersive cinematography, and emotionally powerful recreation of the real-life tragedy. Critics at the festival particularly praised the film's ability to combine blockbuster-scale spectacle with deeply human storytelling, noting its respect for the historical events and the people involved. Following its festival debut, the film premiered in IMAX 3D in the United Kingdom on September 11, 2015. Allowing audiences to experience the immense scale and breathtaking landscapes of the Himalayas through premium large-format presentation. It subsequently expanded to international markets in IMAX 3D, RED 3D, and standard 2D formats before opening with an exclusive IMAX 3D limited release in the United States and Canada on September 18, 2015. The film then expanded into wide theatrical release across North America on September 25, 2015, supported by strong marketing that emphasized both its stunning visuals and its spaces in true events. Benefiting from strong word-of-mouth, premium format screenings, and widespread audience interest in real-life survival stories, Everest became a notable commercial success, earning approximately $203 million worldwide against an estimated production budget of $55 million. The film performed particularly well in international markets, where its breathtaking visual presentation and universal themes of perseverance, sacrifice, and human resilience resonated with audiences. It also received generally positive reviews from critics, who commanded Baltasar !Ker's confident direction, Salvatore Totino's spectacular cinematography, the convincing visual effects, immersive sound design, and Dario Marianelli's emotionally stirring musical score. Particular praise was directed toward Jason Clarke's understated and deeply affecting portrayal of Rob Hall, while Jake Gyllenhaal, Josh Brolin, Job Hawks, Emily Watson, Robin Wright, and the supporting cast were also recognized for bringing authenticity and emotional depth to their real-life counterparts. Although some reviewers observed that the film's large ensemble cast occasionally limited opportunities for deeper individual character development, most agreed that this reflected the complexity of the actual events and allowed the film to present a broader perspective on the disaster. Over the years, Everest has come to be regarded as one of the finest modern survival dramas, celebrated for its remarkable technical craftsmanship, respectful historical portrayal, emotional sincerity, and gripping depiction of humanity's struggle against the overwhelming and unforgiving forces of nature. In May 1996, the Himalayan climbing season reaches its peak as hundreds of mountaineers from around the world gather at Everest Base Camp in Nepal, all hoping to conquer the world's highest mountain during the narrow window of favorable weather that appears each spring. Among them are several commercial expeditions that offer guided ascents to paying clients, reflecting the growing commercialization of Mount Everest during the 1990s. The film centers on two of the mountain's most respected guiding companies, adventure consultants, led by legendary New Zealand mountaineer Rob Hall, Jason Clarke, and Mountain Madness, headed by the charismatic and free-spirited American climber Scott Fisher, Jake Gyllenhaal. Although the two companies compete for clients, both Hall and Fisher share a mutual respect earned through years of experience in the Himalayas and a common commitment to bringing their climbers safely to the summit. Hall's expedition consists of an international group of climbers, each driven by unique personal ambitions and emotional motivations. Beckweather's Josh Brolin, a wealthy American pathologist, hopes the expedition will help him rediscover purpose after experiencing depression and emotional distance from his family. Doug Hansen, Job Hawks, a humble postal worker from Seattle, has invested nearly everything he owns to return to Everest after failing to reach the summit during Hall's previous expedition. Determined to prove to himself and those who supported him that he can accomplish the seemingly impossible, Yasuko Namba, née Okomori, an accomplished Japanese climber, seeks to become one of the few women in the world to complete the prestigious 7 summits, having already conquered the highest mountains on every continent except Everest. Accompanying the expedition is John Krakauer, Michael Kelly, a journalist for Outside magazine who has been assigned to write an article examining the rapidly expanding commercial guiding industry on Everest, though his reporting soon evolves into a first-hand account of one of mountaineering's greatest disasters. At base camp, expedition coordinator Helen Wilton, Emily Watson, oversees logistics, weather updates, radio communications, and emergency planning while maintaining constant contact with the climbers as they ascend the mountain. Before leaving New Zealand, Rob shares an emotional farewell with his pregnant wife Jen Arnold, Keira Knightley, a doctor expecting their first child. Rob promises he will return home safely before the birth, a promise that becomes increasingly poignant throughout the film. Shortly after arriving at base camp, Rob receives a fax from Jan revealing that they are expecting a baby girl. Excited by the news, he tells his fellow climbers that he wants to name their daughter Sarah, while Jan playfully argues for choosing another name, creating a touching recurring conversation that symbolizes the ordinary family life waiting for Rob beyond the mountain. Over the following weeks, both expeditions undergo the demanding process of acclimatization, repeatedly climbing between base camp, Camp I, Camp 2, Camp 3, and Camp 4 before returning to lower elevations to allow their bodies to adapt to Everest's dangerously thin air. The film vividly portrays the immense physical strain of high-altitude climbing, including oxygen deprivation, exhaustion, freezing temperatures, avalanches, and the constant threat posed by the treacherous Khumbu icefall, where towering ice formations can collapse without warning. During these preparations, Rob Hull becomes increasingly worried about the unprecedented number of commercial expeditions attempting the summit during the same weather window. He realizes that bottlenecks on narrow sections of the mountain could create dangerous delays that would force climbers to descend after nightfall. Determined to minimize the risks, Hull meets with Scott Fisher and proposes that their teams cooperate by coordinating departure times, sharing fixed ropes, and assisting one another during the ascent rather than competing for the summit. Although Fisher is more relaxed and unconventional in his leadership style, he agrees, recognizing that teamwork offers the best chance of success. Once meteorologists predict a brief period of stable weather, both expeditions leave Camp 4 on the South Col shortly after midnight and begin the grueling final climb toward the summit under the light of their headlamps. Rob repeatedly reminds every member of his team that reaching the summit is optional but returning safely is mandatory, establishing a strict 2 p.m. turnaround deadline beyond which no climber should continue upward regardless of how close they are to the top. However, as the climbers approach the steep rock face known as the Hillary Step, they discover that the fixed ropes expected to have been installed by advanced Sherpa teams are missing. Guides are forced to secure the ropes while dozens of climbers wait in a growing traffic jam, wasting more than an hour of precious daylight and placing the entire expedition dangerously behind schedule before they even reach the summit. As the climbers continue their ascent into the thin air of Everest's infamous death zone, where oxygen levels are insufficient to sustain human life for extended periods, fatigue and altitude sickness begin affecting many members of both expeditions. Weathers suddenly loses much of his vision due to the extreme altitude and previous eye surgery, making it impossible for him to safely continue. Believing Beck has little chance of reaching the summit without endangering himself and others, Rob instructs him to remain where he is for 30 minutes in the hope that his eyesight will improve before turning back. Meanwhile, Scott Fisher repeatedly exhausts himself by descending to assist struggling clients before climbing back upward again, despite showing obvious signs of physical deterioration. Rob privately warns Scott that he is pushing himself beyond safe limits and risks becoming another climber in need of rescue. But Scott refuses to abandon members of his expedition and continues upward through sheer determination. Eventually, Rob Hull reaches the summit within the established safety window, where he is joined by several members of his team, including Yasuko Namba, who joyfully plants the Japanese flag after achieving her lifelong ambition of completing the 7 Summits Challenge. Yet the celebration is short-lived. While beginning his descent, Rob encounters Doug Hansen still climbing toward the summit well above the Hillary Step. Doug is visibly exhausted, short of breath, and suffering from the effects of altitude, but emotionally pleads with Rob for one final opportunity, explaining that he has sacrificed years of savings, endured a previous failure, and may never have another chance to stand on the roof of the world. Torn between enforcing the turnaround rule and honoring Doug's extraordinary determination, Rob reluctantly accompanies him to the summit. They finally arrive nearly 2 hours past the safety deadline, leaving them dangerously exposed as afternoon clouds rapidly gather and the mountain's weather begins to deteriorate. The delayed descent soon spirals into one of the worst disasters in Everest's history. Doug's physical condition rapidly declines as exhaustion, hypoxia, and severe altitude sickness impair his judgment and coordination. At the same time, Scott Fisher begins suffering from high-altitude pulmonary edema, causing fluid to accumulate in his lungs and making every breath a painful struggle. Before the climbers can descend to safer elevations, an unexpected and violent blizzard engulfs the upper slopes of Everest. Hurricane-force winds, blinding snowfall, and near-zero visibility erase the climbing route, separate expedition members, and transform the mountain into a lethal maze. As Rob desperately attempts to guide Doug down the mountain, Doug's supplemental oxygen supply runs out, accelerating the effects of oxygen deprivation. Rob radios base camp, asking Helen Wilton to arrange for additional oxygen cylinders because the emergency bottles he had requested were never positioned along the route. Forced to briefly leave Doug while organizing assistance, Rob returns to discover that the disoriented climber has detached himself from the fixed safety rope. Barely aware of his surroundings due to severe hypoxia, Doug wanders into the blizzard before silently disappearing over the mountain's edge to his death. Elsewhere, Scott Fisher's condition deteriorates beyond recovery. Realizing he no longer possesses the strength to continue and unwilling to endanger others by attempting a rescue, Scott quietly instructs his companions to descend without him. Accepting his fate with dignity, he lies down in the snow and dies from exposure and the overwhelming effects of altitude, bringing an end to the life of one of the world's greatest mountaineers. As night falls, conditions on Everest become even more catastrophic. Beck Weathers eventually regains enough vision to begin descending with several other stranded climbers, but the blizzard completely erases every visible landmark, causing the exhausted group to lose the trail in the deadly death zone. Unable to locate the route back to Camp 4, the climbers become trapped in the freezing darkness. 3 members continue searching for help while Beck and Yasuko Nemba remain behind in the snow, both appearing beyond rescue. Higher on the mountain, adventure consultants guide Andy Harold Harris, Martin Henderson, courageously climbs into the storm carrying desperately needed oxygen for Rob Hull. Tragically, the regulator on the cylinder has frozen shut, making the oxygen inaccessible despite Andy's desperate efforts to open it. With temperatures plunging far below freezing and rescue impossible, Rob and Andy shelter together against the relentless winds. Throughout the night, Andy develops severe cerebral hypoxia, causing him to hallucinate and lose awareness of reality. In a tragic example of paradoxical undressing associated with advanced hypothermia, he removes portions of his protective clothing before wandering into the whiteout and falling to his death. By dawn, Rob's hands and feet are catastrophically frostbitten, leaving him unable to move. Through his radio, he informs Helen Wilton that Doug Hansen and Andy Harris are gone and quietly acknowledges that he will not survive. Knowing this may be her last chance to speak with him, Helen contacts Jen Arnold in New Zealand and patches her voice through by satellite telephone. Fighting back tears, Jen desperately urges Rob to keep moving and continue fighting for his life. Rob calmly replies that he feels strangely warm and peaceful despite the freezing temperatures, expresses his profound love for Jen and their unborn daughter, asks her to name the baby Sarah, and gently says goodbye before dying alone high on Everest, overlooking the mountain he had climbed so many times before. At base camp, the surviving expedition members struggle to comprehend the scale of the disaster as rescue attempts remain impossible due to the continuing storm. News arrives that Beck Weathers and Yasuko Nemba are still stranded high on the mountain with little chance of survival. Helen reluctantly telephones Beck's wife, Peach Weathers, Robin Wright, preparing her for what appears to be the inevitable loss of her husband. Miraculously, after spending an entire night exposed to temperatures approaching '48 degrees C, Beck regains consciousness despite being declared effectively dead. Discovering that Yasuko has succumbed to the cold beside him, Beck summons extraordinary determination and begins an agonizing solo descent. Nearly blind, severely dehydrated, suffering extensive frostbite, and barely able to stand, he slowly stumbles down the mountain until he unexpectedly reaches Camp 4, astonishing rescuers who believed survival under such conditions was impossible. His remarkable endurance becomes one of the most extraordinary survival stories in mountaineering history. Recognizing that Beck will die without immediate medical treatment, Peach contacts the United States Embassy, helping organize an unprecedented rescue mission. In an extraordinary display of courage and flying skill, Lieutenant Colonel Madan Khatri Chitri of the Nepalese Army pilots a helicopter to an altitude never before achieved in a successful rescue operation, allowing Beck to be evacuated from the mountain and transported to a hospital. Meanwhile, Scott Fisher's loyal guide Anatoly Grieve, Ingvar Egert Sigurd Degreeson, who repeatedly risked his own life by venturing back into the blizzard to search for stranded climbers, later locates Scott's body and respectfully moves it away from the climbing route. Following the tragedy, Helen Wilton returns to New Zealand and shares a deeply emotional reunion with Jan Arnold. Sometime later, Jan gives birth to a healthy daughter and honors Rob's final request by naming her Sarah. Beck Weathers eventually returns home to his wife and children after months of medical treatment and multiple surgeries, although he permanently loses both hands and his nose to severe frostbite. The film concludes with poignant closing text revealing the long-term fate of the survivors and noting that the bodies of Rob Hall and many of the climbers who perished during the 1996 Mount Everest disaster still rest on the slopes of Mount Everest, serving as enduring memorials to the extraordinary courage, ambition, sacrifice, and tragic human cost associated with standing atop the highest mountain on Earth. The ensemble cast of Everest brings to life the real climbers, expedition leaders, Sherpa guides, family members, journalists, medical personnel, and rescue teams whose lives were forever changed by the 1996 Mount Everest disaster. Directed with a strong emphasis on historical authenticity, the film features a large international cast portraying actual people involved in the tragedy, with many of the actors studying survivor testimonies, historical records, interviews, and published accounts to accurately capture the personalities, relationships, and emotional experiences of their real-life counterparts. Rather than focusing on a single protagonist, the film adopts a multi-perspective narrative that follows several interconnected expeditions, allowing each cast member to contribute to a broader portrait of the courage, ambition, sacrifice, and devastating human cost associated with climbing the world's highest mountain. Leading the ensemble is Jason Clarke as Rob Hall, the legendary New Zealand mountaineer, founder of Adventure Consultants, and one of the pioneers of commercial Everest expeditions. Hall is portrayed as an experienced, disciplined, and compassionate leader whose reputation for professionalism and calm decision-making has earned him immense respect throughout the mountaineering community. Clarke presents Hall as a devoted husband, loving father-to-be, and meticulous expedition leader who constantly places the welfare of his clients above his own safety. Throughout the film, Hall balances difficult leadership decisions with genuine empathy for every climber under his care, remaining determined to bring each member of his team safely home even after conditions become hopeless. His unwavering commitment ultimately leads him to sacrifice his own life while attempting to save client Doug Hansen during the catastrophic storm, making Hull one of the film's emotional centerpieces. Co-starring opposite Clarke is Jake Gyllenhaal as Scott Fisher, the charismatic American climber and founder of the guiding company Mountain Madness. Fisher is depicted as a larger-than-life adventurer known for his adventurous spirit, unconventional leadership style, and extraordinary endurance at high altitude. Unlike Hall's more methodical approach, Fisher embraces a relaxed philosophy built on trust, experience, and personal freedom, though he shares Hall's deep concern for his client's safety. Gyllenhaal portrays Fisher as a physically powerful climber whose relentless determination to assist struggling members of his expedition gradually pushes his own body beyond its limits. As exhaustion and altitude-related illness begin affecting him during the summit attempt, Fisher refuses to abandon his responsibilities, ultimately succumbing to severe high-altitude pulmonary edema after encouraging others to continue descending without him. Gyllenhaal's performance highlights Fisher's courage, generosity, optimism, and acceptance of his fate in his final moments. Josh Brolin delivers one of the film's most memorable performances as Beck Weathers, an American pathologist and amateur mountaineer whose incredible survival story became one of the defining accounts of the Everest disaster. Initially portrayed as a man struggling with depression and emotional distance from his family, Beck views the expedition as an opportunity for personal renewal and self-discovery. After developing severe vision problems caused by the extreme altitude, he is forced to abandon his summit attempt before becoming trapped overnight in the mountain's deadly death zone. Brolin powerfully depicts Beck's extraordinary will to survive as he awakens after being presumed dead, painfully descending the mountain despite catastrophic frostbite, hypothermia, and near blindness. His performance emphasizes not only the physical suffering endured by Beck but also the emotional strength that drives him to reunite with his wife and children. Robin Wright portrays Beck's wife Peach Weathers, who remains thousands of miles away yet plays a crucial role in organizing emergency rescue efforts after learning that her husband has been left for dead. Wright presents Peach as determined, emotionally resilient, and unwaveringly devoted, becoming one of the film's strongest emotional anchors as she refuses to accept Beck's apparent fate and helps coordinate the unprecedented helicopter evacuation that ultimately saves his life. Job Hawks portrays Doug Hansen, an ordinary Seattle postal worker whose lifelong dream of standing atop Mount Everest forms one of the film's most emotionally affecting storylines. Having failed to reach the summit during Rob Hall's previous expedition, Doug has sacrificed years of savings and endured considerable financial hardship for one final opportunity to achieve his dream. Hawks portrays Doug as humble, soft-spoken, and immensely determined, capturing both his quiet perseverance and the emotional burden of knowing he may never receive another chance. His heartbreaking insistence on continuing toward the summit despite missing Hall's turnaround deadline becomes one of the pivotal decisions that contributes to the unfolding disaster. Nae Okomori portrays Yasuko Namba, the accomplished Japanese mountaineer seeking to become one of the few women in the world to complete the prestigious 7 Summits Challenge. Mori presents Yasuko as kind, determined, and quietly confident, celebrating her successful ascent before tragically becoming one of the climbers unable to survive the storm. Michael Kelly portrays John Clarke, the journalist for Outside magazine assigned to cover the commercialization of Everest climbing. As the disaster unfolds, Clarke unexpectedly becomes both participant and witness to history, later documenting the tragedy in his internationally acclaimed memoir Into Thin Air. Kelly portrays Clarke as observant, thoughtful, and increasingly haunted by the events unfolding around him, providing audiences with an important perspective on the expedition's successes and failures. Emily Watson appears as Helen Wilton, adventure consultant's experienced base camp manager, whose responsibilities include coordinating logistics, monitoring weather forecasts, maintaining radio communications, and organizing rescue operations. Watson portrays Helen as calm, intelligent, and deeply compassionate, becoming the emotional link between climbers on the mountain and anxious families waiting at home. As communication with the stranded climbers deteriorates, Helen's growing desperation reflects the helplessness experienced by those unable to intervene directly. Keira Knightley portrays Dr. Jan Arnold, Rob Hall's pregnant wife and a physician living in New Zealand. Although separated from the mountain by thousands of miles, Jan remains one of the film's most emotionally significant characters. Knightley portrays her with remarkable restraint and vulnerability, particularly during the heartbreaking satellite telephone conversation in which she encourages Rob to keep fighting despite knowing rescue is nearly impossible. Her scenes highlight the devastating impact that high-risk exploration has on families waiting at home. Jan later fulfills Rob's final request by naming their newborn daughter Sarah, providing one of the film's most poignant concluding moments. Martin Henderson portrays Andy Harold Harris, Rob Hall's trusted New Zealand guide and close personal friend. Harris repeatedly risks his own life to support stranded climbers and later climbs back into the blizzard carrying desperately needed oxygen for Hall before succumbing to hypothermia and cerebral hypoxia. Henderson portrays Andy's unwavering loyalty, courage, and quiet heroism throughout the expedition. Ingvar Egert Sigurd Degreesen appears as legendary Russian mountaineer Anatoly Grieve, one of Scott Fischer's lead guides and among the strongest climbers on Everest. Although his unconventional decision to climb without supplemental oxygen draws criticism from some expedition members, Grieve repeatedly ventures back into the blizzard to rescue stranded climbers, saving several lives at enormous personal risk. Sigurd Degreesen portrays him as stoic, exceptionally skilled, and deeply committed to his responsibilities. Sam Worthington portrays respected New Zealand mountain guide Guy Cotter, who assists with search and rescue efforts after the disaster and later helps coordinate recovery operations for the survivors. Thomas Amwright portrays experienced Australian climber Michael Groom, another member of Hall's expedition whose survival reflects the difficult choices required during the descent. Mark Derwin portrays Luke A. Zisk, an American businessman whose decision to obey Rob Hall's turnaround rule and abandon his summit attempt ultimately saves his life, emphasizing one of the central themes of the film, that survival often depends upon knowing when to turn back. The film's extensive supporting cast further enriches its portrayal of the real disaster. Elizabeth Debicki portrays Dr. Carolyn Mackenzie, the physician stationed at Everest Base Camp who provides emergency medical treatment for returning climbers while helping coordinate rescue efforts during the crisis. Tom Goodman-Hill portrays Neil Bottleman, one of Scott Fisher's experienced guides, whose calm leadership enables several exhausted climbers to survive despite becoming lost during the blizzard. Vanessa Kirby appears as Sandy Hill Pittman, a wealthy American socialite and climber participating in Fisher's expedition, while Charlotte Beatilda Sedileving portrays Danish mountaineer Line Gammelgaard, one of the survivors of the disaster. Amy Schindler appears as Charlotte Fox, another adventure consultant's client whose successful summit is overshadowed by the tragedy that follows. Justin Salinger portrays veteran British mountaineer Ian Woodall, while Clive Standen appears as legendary American climber Ed Viesters, whose experience makes him one of the few elite alpinists available to assist with rescue operations. Micah Hauptman portrays celebrated filmmaker and climber David Breshears, who was filming an IMAX documentary on Everest during the 1996 season and later assists in rescue efforts. Chris Riley appears as Cleb Shottening, one of Fisher's clients, while Chai Shan portrays Mikalugo, leader of the Taiwanese expedition. Vijay Alama portrays Lieutenant Colonel Madan Khatri Chitri, the courageous Nepalese army helicopter pilot whose daring high-altitude evacuation of Beckwithers becomes one of the most remarkable rescue missions in mountaineering history. Mia Goth appears as Meg Weathers, Beck's teenage daughter, representing the families anxiously awaiting news from Everest. Completing the ensemble are accomplished Nepalese climbers Pemba Sherpa as Lobsang Sherpa, one of Scott Fisher's lead Sherpa guides, and Angphula Sherpa as Angdorj Sherpa, Rob Hall's trusted Sherpa, both of whom play indispensable roles in supporting the expeditions through some of the harshest conditions on Earth. Collectively, the cast of Everest delivers a powerful and deeply authentic ensemble performance that emphasizes the humanity behind one of modern mountaineering's greatest tragedies. Rather than portraying the climbers as larger-than-life heroes, the performances present them as ordinary people driven by extraordinary dreams, personal ambitions, professional responsibility, and devotion to those around them. Through their emotionally grounded portrayals, the ensemble successfully captures the fear, determination, resilience, compassion, and sacrifice that define the real individuals involved in the 1996 Mount Everest disaster, making the film both an epic survival drama and a respectful tribute to those who lived through and those who lost their lives during one of the deadliest days in Everest's history. Development of Everest began when Working Title Films acquired their rights to develop a feature film dramatizing the tragic 1996 Mount Everest disaster, one of the deadliest and most widely documented catastrophes in the history of high-altitude mountaineering. Rather than focusing solely on one individual's experience, the filmmakers envisioned an ensemble survival drama that would faithfully portray the interconnected stories of the climbers, expedition leaders, Sherpas, rescuers, and family members whose lives were forever changed by the disaster. Icelandic filmmaker Baltasar Kerr was selected to direct the project because of his experience combining intimate human drama with large-scale action and survival storytelling. Kerr approached the film not simply as a disaster spectacle but as an emotional examination of courage, ambition, leadership, sacrifice, and the physical and psychological limits of human endurance. His objective was to create an immersive cinematic experience that captured both the breathtaking beauty and the terrifying unpredictability of the world's highest mountain while honoring the memories of those who lost their lives. The screenplay was written by Academy Award-winning screenwriter Simon Beaufoy and playwright Mark Madoff, building upon earlier script drafts developed by Justin Isbell and William Nicholson during the project's initial stages of development. Instead of adapting a single book, the filmmakers undertook extensive research to create a comprehensive and historically respectful account of the events surrounding the May 1996 climbing season. The script drew from numerous first-hand accounts, including John Krakauer's internationally best-selling memoir Into Thin Air, Beckwithers' memoir Left for Dead, interviews with surviving climbers, expedition organizers, Sherpas, rescue personnel, and family members, as well as official reports documenting the tragedy. By incorporating multiple perspectives rather than relying on one narrator, the screenplay sought to present a balanced depiction of the disaster while acknowledging the complexity of the decisions made by the expedition leaders and climbers during the fatal storm. The film was produced by Tim Bevan and Eric Fellner through Working Title Films, one of Britain's most successful production companies. In collaboration with several international financing partners, Universal Pictures secured distribution rights for the United States and numerous international markets, while the production was designed as a large-scale international co-production requiring extensive location work, practical effects, and technically demanding mountain photography. From the outset, the filmmakers committed themselves to portraying the climbing experience as authentically as possible, consulting experienced mountaineers, survival experts, and Everest veterans throughout pre-production to ensure the equipment, climbing procedures, weather conditions, and expedition logistics accurately reflected the realities of Himalayan mountaineering. The project entered active pre-production during 2013, with principal photography originally scheduled to begin in November 2013. During the financing stage, Emmett/Phyllis/Oasis Films joined the production in September 2013 as co-financiers, helping assemble the project's substantial budget. However, only a month later the company withdrew after changes to the financing structure, forcing the producers to secure new investment before filming could proceed. The setback proved temporary, and on November 12, 2013, Cross Creek Pictures and Walden Media officially joined the production as principal financial partners, investing approximately $65 million to support the ambitious production. Their involvement enabled the filmmakers to maintain the original production schedule while preserving the film's extensive location shooting and practical filmmaking approach. Additional financial assistance came from the South Tyrol Film Fund Commission, whose regional film board contributed approximately $1 million in production incentives in recognition of the significant amount of filming planned within the Italian Alps, further strengthening the international nature of the production. Casting began in early 2013, with the producers seeking an ensemble of internationally recognized actors capable of portraying the real-life climbers with emotional authenticity rather than conventional action hero personas. In February 2013, Christian Bale entered negotiations to portray legendary New Zealand mountaineer Rob Hall, founder of Adventure Consultants, whose leadership and calm professionalism made him one of the world's most respected Everest guides. Bale ultimately departed the project because of scheduling conflicts before filming began, prompting the producers to seek a replacement. On July 17, 2013, the principal cast was officially announced, with Jason Clarke assuming the role of Rob Hall. Clarke's understated dramatic style was considered well-suited to portraying Hall's quiet leadership, compassion for his clients, and unwavering commitment to their safety even under impossible circumstances. Joining Clarke was Jake Gyllenhaal, who was cast as celebrated American climber Scott Fisher, founder of Mountain Madness, whose charismatic personality, adventurous spirit, and passion for high-altitude climbing made him one of Hall's principal rivals and colleagues during the 1996 expedition. Josh Brolin was cast as Beck Weathers, the Texas pathologist whose extraordinary survival after being presumed dead became one of the most remarkable stories to emerge from the disaster. Job Hawks portrayed Doug Hansen, a postal worker and longtime Adventure Consultants client attempting to fulfill his lifelong dream of reaching the summit after a previous unsuccessful attempt. Hansen's determination and tragic fate became one of the film's most emotionally powerful storylines, illustrating both the irresistible allure and the immense dangers of climbing Everest. As filming preparations continued, the production expanded its already impressive ensemble by recruiting additional performers to portray many of the real-life climbers, guides, journalists, and support personnel involved in the expedition. While principal photography was already underway, Clive Standen joined the cast in February 2014, followed shortly afterward by Martin Henderson, Emily Watson, Thomas M. Wright, and Michael Kelly. Watson portrayed Helen Wilton, the highly experienced Adventure Consultant space camp manager responsible for maintaining radio communications, monitoring weather conditions, and coordinating rescue efforts throughout the crisis. Michael Kelly was cast as journalist and climber John Clarke, whose eyewitness account of the tragedy would later become the best-selling memoir Into Thin Air, widely regarded as one of the definitive works on the disaster. Thomas M. Wright and Martin Henderson portrayed additional expedition members whose experiences contributed to the film's broader depiction of the climbing community during the fateful expedition. The cast continued to grow throughout February and March 2014 as production sought to represent as many significant historical figures as possible. On February 17, 2014, Micah Hauptman joined the film as legendary climber, cinematographer, and documentary filmmaker David Brashears, who was leading the IMAX production of Everest on the mountain during the actual events of 1996 and whose team captured some of the disaster's aftermath. On March 24, 2014, Sam Worthington joined the production as veteran New Zealand mountain guide Guy Cotter, one of the rescuers who participated in efforts to assist survivors following the storm, while Robin Wright was cast as Peach Weathers, Beck Weathers' devoted wife, whose emotional struggle at home provides one of the film's most heartfelt perspectives on the disaster's impact beyond the mountain itself. Collectively, the ensemble reflected the filmmaker's determination to portray the tragedy through multiple viewpoints rather than centering the story on a single protagonist. Principal photography officially commenced on January 13, 2014, marking the beginning of an ambitious international shoot designed to recreate the challenging conditions of Mount Everest with the highest degree of realism possible. Rather than relying primarily on soundstages or digital environments, Baltasar insisted on filming in real mountainous terrain whenever feasible. The production began in the Aetschyl Alps of South Tyrol, Italy, where towering snow-covered peaks, glaciers, and rugged alpine landscapes closely resembled sections of Everest while providing a safer and more controllable filming environment. The Italian locations doubled for many of the mountain's lower slopes and climbing routes, allowing the filmmakers to stage physically demanding climbing sequences under genuine winter conditions. Following the Italian schedule, production moved to Nepal, where cast and crew filmed in and around the Khumbu region, capturing authentic Himalayan landscapes, villages, monasteries, and Everest base camp locations to provide the film with a level of geographical authenticity rarely seen in mountaineering dramas. The crew worked alongside experienced Sherpas and local mountaineering specialists, whose expertise helped ensure realistic climbing techniques, equipment usage, and expedition procedures throughout production. Additional photography later took place in Iceland, whose glaciers, volcanic terrain, snowfields, and rapidly changing weather conditions served as convincing stand-ins for Everest's upper elevations, dangerous ice falls, and storm-ravaged summit regions. Throughout filming, Kerr emphasized practical filmmaking techniques over heavy reliance on computer-generated imagery. Actors underwent mountaineering and altitude training before filming, wore authentic expedition clothing and climbing equipment, and frequently performed scenes under freezing temperatures, high winds, and physically demanding conditions. Extensive practical snow effects, real climbing environments, large-scale location photography, and carefully choreographed stunt work were combined with selective visual effects to recreate the deadly blizzards, avalanches, crevasses, and extreme weather encountered during the 1996 disaster. Cinematographer Salvatore Totino worked closely with Kerr to capture sweeping panoramic vistas alongside intimate character moments, creating a visual style that conveyed both the awe-inspiring grandeur and overwhelming danger of Mount Everest. By combining meticulous historical research, international locations shooting, practical effects, and a distinguished ensemble cast, the filmmakers sought to produce one of the most authentic and emotionally resonant cinematic portrayals of high-altitude mountaineering ever brought to the screen while paying respectful tribute to the climbers, guides, Sherpas, rescuers, and families whose lives were profoundly affected by the events of May 1996. Principal photography for Everest became one of the most challenging and technically ambitious productions ever attempted for a mountaineering survival drama. with director Baltasar Kormakur and his filmmaking team determined to recreate the brutal reality of high-altitude climbing with maximum authenticity. From the earliest stages of production, Kormakur wanted the film to avoid the artificial appearance often associated with large-scale disaster movies by combining real mountain environments, practical filmmaking techniques, extensive location photography, and carefully controlled visual effects. The director believed that the emotional power of the story depended on audiences feeling the extreme conditions faced by the climbers of the freezing temperatures, exhaustion, isolation, unpredictable weather, and overwhelming scale of Mount Everest. As a result, the production was designed as a multinational shoot spanning Nepal, Italy, Iceland, and the United Kingdom, allowing the filmmakers to capture both the genuine atmosphere of the Himalayas and the controlled environments needed for complex action sequences. In November 2013, the production finalized its shooting schedule and announced that principal photography would officially begin on January 13, 2014 in Italy before moving to other international locations. Co-financier Brian Oliver revealed that the planned schedule would involve approximately 6 weeks of filming in the Aetschyl Alps of northern Italy, followed by around 1 month in Iceland, before the production moved to Nepal for another month of location work near the Everest region. The decision to divide filming between multiple countries was driven by both artistic and practical considerations. While Nepal provided unmatched authenticity through its Himalayan landscapes, filming extensively on Mount Everest presented significant logistical challenges, including altitude-related risks, unpredictable weather, limited access, and difficulties transporting large amounts of equipment and personnel. The Italian and Icelandic locations provided safer environments where the cast and crew could perform complex sequences while still maintaining the visual appearance of Everest's dangerous terrain. Before filming began, the actors underwent rigorous physical preparation to convincingly portray professional climbers and expedition members. In early January 2014, Jake Gyllenhaal and Josh Brolin, along with other members of the cast, participated in intensive mountaineering training sessions in the Santa Monica Mountains in California. Under the guidance of professional climbing instructors and technical advisors, the actors learned essential mountaineering skills, including rock climbing, rope techniques, belaying, glacier movement, emergency procedures, and the correct use of expedition equipment such as crampons, ice axes, harnesses, oxygen systems, and climbing boots. They also trained while wearing the heavy clothing and equipment used by Everest climbers to understand the physical limitations caused by bulky gear and extreme environments. The training was not limited to physical movement but also focused on helping the actors understand the psychological challenges experienced by climbers at extreme altitude. The cast studied the effects of oxygen deprivation, exhaustion, hypothermia, and altitude sickness to accurately portray the mental strain of surviving in one of the world's harshest environments. Former mountaineers and Everest experts were consulted throughout the preparation process, providing insight into climbing techniques, expedition culture, and the emotional relationships between guides and clients. This preparation allowed the actors to develop more realistic performances and avoid portraying Everest climbing as a conventional adventure, instead emphasizing the discipline, danger, and vulnerability involved. The first major production unit arrived in Nepal on January 12, 2014, with a crew of approximately 44 members establishing operations in Kathmandu before beginning their journey toward the Everest region. The filmmakers obtained official approval from Nepalese authorities to film between 9 January and 23 January. Giving them access to important locations associated with the 1996 expedition. The Nepal schedule represented one of the most important parts of the production because it allowed the filmmakers to capture authentic Himalayan environments rather than recreating them entirely through studio sets. Principal photography in Nepal officially began on January 13, 2014. With the crew focusing on establishing the journey undertaken by Everest climbers before reaching the mountain itself. The production filmed scenes depicting the arrival of expedition members, their preparations, and their movement through the Himalayan region. These sequences were designed to introduce audiences to the culture, landscape, and logistical challenges involved in reaching Everest, emphasizing that the climb begins long before climbers reach the mountain slopes. On 14th of January, actors Josh Brolin and Job Hawks filmed scenes at the domestic terminal of Tribhuvan International Airport in Kathmandu, recreating the arrival of climbers before they traveled toward the Himalayas. The production then moved to Tenzing Hillary Airport in Lukla, a location famous among mountaineers for its dangerous approach, short runway, and dramatic mountain surroundings. Filming at Lukla allowed the production to authentically capture the beginning of the Everest expedition route, where climbers and guides traditionally begin their trek toward base camp. The crew continued filming in Nemk Bazaar, a historic Sherpa settlement and one of the most important stopping points on the route to Everest Base Camp. The production captured the town's narrow pathways, traditional buildings, mountain views, and local atmosphere to accurately represent the environment experienced by climbers before their ascent. The filmmakers worked closely with local residents and Sherpa guides to ensure that the cultural details shown in the film reflected the realities of the region. The most demanding portion of the Nepal shoot involved filming around Everest Base Camp, where the production captured genuine Himalayan landscapes, glaciers, and surrounding peaks. These scenes were essential in establishing the enormous scale of the mountain and the isolation experienced by climbers preparing for their ascent. The filmmakers used real expedition areas, natural lighting, and authentic mountain conditions to create a sense of realism that would have been difficult to achieve entirely on a soundstage. The Nepal footage became a visual foundation for the film, later being combined with studio-built environments and visual effects. Following the Nepal schedule, the production relocated to Italy, where the Aetschyl Alps became one of the film's primary shooting locations. The region's towering peaks, glaciers, and snow-covered landscapes provided a convincing substitute for Everest's upper slopes while allowing the production to operate under safer conditions. The Italian Alps were used extensively for climbing sequences, dangerous weather scenes, and moments requiring actors and stunt performers to work on steep terrain. The production team carefully selected locations that resembled Everest's geological formations and lighting conditions, allowing the transition between real Himalayan footage and European mountain photography to appear seamless. Additional Italian filming took place in the Scialstal, Valsegnals, glacier region, where the crew captured extensive snow and ice sequences. These environments provided realistic conditions for scenes involving climbing, survival, and exposure to extreme weather. The production also utilized facilities in Rome, where studio work was combined with location photography to recreate specific environments that could not be filmed safely on an actual mountain. After completing the Italian portion of filming, the production moved to Iceland, a country whose glaciers, frozen landscapes, volcanic terrain, and unpredictable weather conditions made it an ideal stand-in for Everest's higher elevations. Iceland allowed the filmmakers to capture vast, empty landscapes representing the exposed areas above the mountain's lower camps. The country's natural environment helped create the feeling of isolation and danger required for the film's survival sequences while giving the production greater control over safety and scheduling. By March 2014, filming transitioned to the United Kingdom, where the production undertook some of its most technically complex work at Pinewood Studios. The studio became the location for large-scale recreations of Everest's most dangerous sections, including the Khumbu Icefall, Camp 4, South Col, the Hillary Step, and the Summit region. These enormous sets were constructed on Pinewood's famous 007 stage, one of the largest sound stages in the world, allowing filmmakers to combine physical environments with green screen extensions and digital backgrounds. The Pinewood sets were designed using detailed research from Everest expeditions, photographs, satellite imagery, and topographical information. Production designers recreated steep ice walls, climbing routes, fixed ropes, crevasses, snow-covered ridges, and expedition equipment with remarkable detail. These practical sets allowed actors to interact physically with their environment, making climbing movements, survival scenes, and emotional performances more believable than if everything had been created digitally. In addition to Pinewood Studios, The production recreated sections of Everest Base Camp at Incita Studios in Rome. The filmmakers selected the Rome backlot because its bright natural sunlight closely resembled the intense illumination found at high altitude. Since Everest receives extremely sharp sunlight due to the thinner atmosphere, controlling lighting was one of the production's greatest challenges. The studio environment allowed the crew to reproduce the appearance of base camp while maintaining greater control over weather, camera movement, and scheduling. Actor Clive Stendon, who portrayed one of the expedition members, later described filming in freezing mountain environments as both physically demanding and rewarding. He explained that working in heavy climbing equipment, snow, and freezing temperatures helped the cast understand the reality faced by mountaineers. Many actors spent long periods filming outdoors in difficult conditions, which contributed to the exhaustion and physical realism visible in their performances. One of the most significant moments during production occurred on April 18, 2014, when a devastating avalanche struck the Khumbu icefall on Mount Everest while the film's second unit crew was in the region filming additional material near Camp 2. The avalanche killed 16 Sherpa guides who were carrying supplies and equipment for climbers preparing for the upcoming climbing season. Although the film crew was nearby, no cast or crew members were injured or killed because the production was not operating at the exact location where the avalanche occurred. However, the tragedy had a profound impact on everyone involved with the film. Production activities in Nepal were temporarily halted as the filmmakers expressed respect for the victims and their families. The disaster also reinforced the film's central message that the dangers shown in Everest represented real risks faced by climbers and Sherpas every year. For the studio sequences, cinematographer Salvatore Totino worked closely with Kormakur to recreate the unique visual conditions of Mount Everest. One of the greatest challenges was reproducing the intense sunlight found at extreme altitude. Totino explained that Everest's sunlight is unusually sharp and powerful because of the thin atmosphere, creating a distinct look that had to be replicated inside the studio. To achieve this effect, the production used massive 100,000-watt soft sun lighting systems, each measuring approximately 9 feet long and 3.5 feet wide. Due to their size and weight, these lights had to be moved using cranes, allowing the filmmakers to simulate the harsh sunlight experienced by climbers near the summit. For the film's most intense survival scenes, including the sequence where Rob Hull, Jason Clarke, becomes trapped during the deadly storm, the production created an extreme cold environment inside Pinewood Studios. A section of the set was enclosed with heavy plastic barriers, while enormous refrigeration units each approximately half the size of a semi-truck were used to lower the temperature to between 26 and 28 degrees Fahrenheit, approximately '3 degrees C. Real snow was introduced onto the set, allowing Jason Clarke to perform in conditions that closely resembled those experienced by Everest climbers. Kormakur wanted the actors to physically experience the cold and discomfort rather than simply pretend to endure freezing temperatures, believing that genuine environmental stress would create more emotionally powerful performances. The film was shot using Arri Alexa XT digital cinema cameras in the Arri RAW format, providing the production with higher resolution images, excellent dynamic range, and the flexibility required for combining location photography with visual effects. The cameras captured the extreme contrast between bright snow, dark mountain shadows, and dramatic weather conditions while maintaining a natural documentary-like quality. Through its combination of authentic Himalayan filming, international mountain locations, massive practical sets, advanced lighting technology, realistic weather effects, and extensive actor preparation, the production of Everest became one of the most technically demanding survival films of its era. The filmmakers' commitment to realism allowed the finished movie to portray not only the physical challenge of climbing the world's highest mountain but also the human courage, sacrifice, and vulnerability at the heart of the 1996 Everest disaster. The musical score for Everest was composed by Dario Marianelli, the Academy Award-winning composer best known for his work on films such as Atonement and Anna Karenina. For Everest, Marianelli created a powerful and emotionally layered orchestral score that was designed to reflect the film's central themes of human determination, survival, sacrifice, friendship, and the overwhelming force of nature. The composer approached the project with the understanding that the story was not simply a disaster film but a deeply human drama about individuals confronting one of the most unforgiving environments on Earth. His goal was to create music that captured both the majesty and danger of Mount Everest while emphasizing the emotional journeys of the climbers, their families, and the guides who risked their lives during the 1996 expedition. Marianelli's approach to the score focused heavily on the contrast between the enormous scale of the Himalayan landscape and the personal struggles of the characters. The mountain itself is portrayed almost as a living presence throughout the film, and the music reflects its beauty, mystery, and terrifying unpredictability. Instead of relying on a conventional action movie style filled with constant dramatic intensity, Marianelli developed a more atmospheric and emotionally restrained musical language. His compositions move between moments of quiet reflection and overwhelming cinematic power, mirroring the climber's progression from excitement and ambition to fear, exhaustion, and survival. The score supports the film's realistic tone by allowing the environment and characters to remain at the center of the story rather than turning the disaster into a simple spectacle. The composer incorporated a wide range of orchestral techniques to represent the changing emotional atmosphere of the expedition. Large-scale orchestral arrangements and powerful percussion sequences were used to convey the vastness of Everest, the danger of the storms, and the physical challenges faced by the climbers. These dramatic passages often feature rising musical themes that build tension and communicate the feeling of being surrounded by an uncontrollable natural force. In contrast, Marianelli used softer elements such as delicate piano melodies, restrained string arrangements, and subtle ambient textures to highlight the emotional relationships between the characters, including the bond between expedition leaders and their clients, the sacrifices made by the Sherpa guides, and the families waiting at home. A major focus of Marianelli's score was capturing the psychological experience of climbing at extreme altitude. The music frequently emphasizes feelings of isolation, uncertainty, and vulnerability, reflecting the mental and physical challenges experienced by the climbers as they move farther away from civilization. The slow-building musical passages create a sense of anticipation as the expedition progresses, while darker and more intense compositions accompany the arrival of the deadly storm. During the film's most dramatic survival sequences, the score becomes more urgent and powerful, using heavier instrumentation and escalating rhythms to represent panic, desperation, and the struggle against impossible conditions. However, Marianelli avoided excessive musical manipulation, maintaining a balance that respected the real-life tragedy and allowed the emotional weight of the events to speak for itself. The score also plays an important role in highlighting the contrast between moments of hope and moments of tragedy. Earlier sections of the film feature warmer and more uplifting musical themes that reflect the excitement and optimism of the climbers as they prepare for their Everest attempt. These melodies represent their dreams, ambitions, and the personal reasons that brought them to the mountain. As the expedition becomes increasingly dangerous, the music gradually shifts into more somber and dramatic territory, reflecting the loss, sacrifice, and emotional consequences of the disaster. Through this musical progression, Marianelli helped transform the film from a simple survival story into a deeper exploration of human courage and vulnerability. In addition to Marianelli's original score, Everest features several carefully selected popular songs that help establish the film's historical setting and cultural atmosphere. One of the most memorable musical inclusions is the Bollywood song Yalad Kahi Ala from the 2001 Hindi film Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham. The song appears during the expedition team's arrival in Nepal, accompanying a sequence in which the climbers travel through a busy local marketplace by bus. The lively and celebratory energy of the song creates a strong cultural connection to Nepal while providing a temporary sense of joy and excitement before the dangerous climb begins. Its upbeat tone also creates an intentional contrast with the tragedy that later unfolds, reminding audiences that the climber's journey began with optimism, adventure, and a sense of possibility. The film also incorporates All I Wanna Do by Sheryl Crow, a song that accurately reflects the period in which the story takes place. Because the events of the 1996 Everest disaster occurred during the height of the song's popularity, its inclusion helps strengthen the film's historical authenticity. The track appears within the context of the expedition members' lives before the disaster, reinforcing the 1990s setting and giving the audience a sense of the cultural world surrounding the climbers. Rather than functioning only as background music, the song helps establish the era and reminds viewers that the events depicted occurred during a specific moment in recent history. Another featured song in the film is Weather With You by Crowded House, which further contributes to the movie's 1990s atmosphere. The song's inclusion carries additional thematic significance because of its connection to the film's focus on changing weather conditions and the unpredictable forces that ultimately determine the climber's fate. Its presence helps bridge the gap between the personal experiences of the characters and the larger environmental challenges surrounding them. Together, these licensed songs provide moments of cultural familiarity and historical context while complementing Marianelli's more dramatic original compositions. The combination of Dario Marianelli's orchestral score and the carefully selected soundtrack songs created a musical identity that matched the unique tone of Everest. The original score provided the emotional foundation of the film, emphasizing the courage, determination, and tragedy of the climbers, while the licensed tracks grounded the story in its historical period and cultural setting. The music worked alongside Baltasar Kormakur's direction and Salvatore Totino's cinematography to enhance the film's sense of scale, allowing audiences to experience both the breathtaking beauty of Everest and the devastating consequences of the mountain's dangers. The complete soundtrack album for Everest was officially released on September 18, 2015 by Varietilde Diaris's Say Saraband, featuring Marianelli's original compositions from the film. The album presented the composer's carefully constructed musical journey outside the context of the movie, showcasing the emotional range of the score reel from quiet moments of reflection to powerful orchestral sequences representing survival and disaster. The soundtrack was praised for its ability to combine traditional cinematic orchestration with atmospheric elements, creating a memorable musical representation of one of the most extraordinary survival stories in modern mountaineering history. The release strategy for Everest was designed as a major international theatrical event, with Universal Pictures positioning the film as a large-scale cinematic experience that would take advantage of premium formats and immersive exhibition technologies. The studio initially scheduled the film for a February 27, 2015 theatrical release in the United States and Canada, but the date was later changed as the filmmakers and distributors sought a more suitable release window that would better support the film's global marketing campaign and emphasize its large-format presentation. The final release plan placed a greater focus on the film's visual spectacle, particularly its use of IMAX 3D and advanced sound technologies, allowing audiences to experience the scale and intensity of Mount Everest in theaters. The film made its official theatrical debut on September 18, 2015, when it was released exclusively in IMAX 3D theaters in the United States and Canada. The limited IMAX rollout was intended to showcase the film's expansive mountain landscapes, aerial photography, and immersive climbing sequences on the largest possible screens. Director Baltasar Kormakur and the production team had designed many sequences specifically with large-format presentation in mind, using sweeping cinematography, detailed environmental effects, and powerful sound designed to place audiences directly into the harsh conditions experienced by the climbers. The IMAX release highlighted the film's emphasis on scale, from the towering Himalayan landscapes to the terrifying intensity of the deadly storm sequence. Following its IMAX debut, Everest expanded into a wider theatrical release on September 25, 2015. Distributed internationally by Universal Pictures, the wide release brought the film to conventional theaters as well as premium format cinemas around the world, allowing audiences across multiple markets to experience the survival drama. Universal promoted the film as a visually spectacular event film, emphasizing its real-life inspiration, international cast, and the technical achievement of recreating one of the most dangerous environments on Earth. In the United States and Canada, Everest became the first film released by Universal Pictures to be presented in Dolby Vision at Dolby Cinema locations. This advanced presentation format provided enhanced image quality through improved brightness, contrast, and color accuracy, allowing viewers to experience the extreme visual contrasts of the film, from the brilliant white snowfields of Everest to the dark, violent conditions of the storm sequences. The Dolby Cinema presentation also featured advanced audio technology designed to heighten the impact of the film's environmental sounds, including powerful winds, avalanches, and the physical challenges of climbing. Before its official theatrical release, Everest received several high-profile preview screenings and festival presentations. On June 23, 2015, the film was screened at Cine Europe 2015 at the Centre Convencions International Barcelona in Spain. The presentation was held in full 3D with Dolby Atmos sound, allowing industry professionals and exhibitors to experience the film's technical achievements before its worldwide release. The screening generated attention for the film's immersive presentation and highlighted Universal's plans to market it as a premium large-format cinematic experience. The world premiere of Everest took place on September 2, 2015 at the prestigious 72nd Venice International Film Festival in Italy. The film was presented in the festival's main venue, the Sala Grande at the Palazzo del Cinema in Venice, where it received its first major public screening before international critics and festival audiences. The premiere served as a significant platform for introducing the film as a combination of survival drama, historical recreation, and large-scale adventure filmmaking. The Venice screening also helped generate early attention for the film's performances, direction, cinematography, and technical achievements. Following its theatrical run, Everest entered the home entertainment market in early 2016. The film was released on DVD, Blu-ray, and Blu-ray 3D on January 19, 2016, providing audiences with the opportunity to experience the film's detailed visuals and immersive sound design at home. The Blu-ray editions included high-definition picture quality, enhanced audio options, and additional behind-the-scenes material exploring the film's production, including its international filming locations, practical effects, visual effects work, and the challenges faced by the cast and crew while recreating Everest's extreme environment. A higher-quality home video release followed on September 27, 2016, when Universal Studios Home Entertainment issued a 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray edition of Everest. The release featured upgraded picture quality with improved resolution, expanded color range, and enhanced contrast designed to showcase the film's dramatic mountain photography and detailed visual effects. The 4K edition allowed viewers to experience the full scale of the film's cinematography, from the vast Himalayan landscapes to the intense storm sequences, with greater clarity and visual depth. Overall, the release campaign for Everest emphasized the film's status as a premium visual experience rather than simply a traditional survival drama. Through its IMAX 3D debut, Dolby Cinema presentation, international festival premiere, wide theatrical rollout, and later high-definition home releases, Universal Pictures positioned the film as a technically ambitious cinematic recreation of one of the most remarkable survival stories in mountaineering history. Everest achieved a solid commercial performance at the global box office, earning approximately $203.4 million worldwide against a reported production budget of $55 million. The film grossed $43.4 million in the United States and Canada and generated approximately $159.9 million from international markets, demonstrating particularly strong performance overseas where audiences showed significant interest in the film's real-life survival story, international cast, and large-format visual presentation. While the film was not considered a major blockbuster compared with other large-scale disaster films, it became a profitable theatrical release and benefited from strong international appeal, especially in territories with interest in adventure, survival, and mountaineering stories. A major component of the film's box office strategy was its premium format rollout, particularly its IMAX 3D release. Before expanding into a full theatrical release, Universal Pictures launched Everest as an exclusive premium format event on September 18, 2015, opening in 545 IMAX 3D and other premium large-format theaters across North America. The limited release was designed to generate strong audience interest and positive word-of-mouth before the film's wide opening the following week. The strategy also allowed the studio to highlight the film's immersive mountain landscapes, large-scale climbing sequences, and advanced visual effects, which were considered major selling points for audiences. During its limited IMAX and premium format preview screenings, Everest earned approximately $325,000 from 481 IMAX and premium large format screens during late-night shows beginning at 7 p.m. The film then earned an estimated $2.3 million on its opening day during the limited engagement. Over its opening weekend, the film collected approximately $7.6 million from 545 premium format locations, placing it at number 5 at the North American box office despite not yet being available in a traditional wide release. Of that total, approximately $5.8 million came from IMAX theaters, representing around 78% of the weekend revenue, while other premium large-format screens contributed approximately $1.7 million, accounting for the remaining 22%. The IMAX performance of Everest set several records for September releases. The film achieved the largest worldwide IMAX opening ever recorded for the month of September, earning approximately $7.2 million globally and surpassing the previous record held by Resident Evil: Retribution, which had earned approximately $6 million. In North America, the film established a new September IMAX opening record by exceeding the previous benchmark set by The Equalizer in 2014, which earned approximately $3.1 million during its IMAX debut. Everest also became the first major Hollywood release since Mission Impossible: A Ghost Protocol in 2011 to receive an IMAX-exclusive theatrical engagement lasting more than 2 days before expanding into wider distribution. The film's IMAX run continued until it was replaced by The Walk later in September 2015. Following its successful premium format preview, Everest expanded into a wide North American release on September 25, 2015, opening in 3,006 theaters across the United States and Canada. On its first Friday of wide release, the film earned approximately $4 million, leading to a full opening weekend gross of $13.09 million. The weekend performance placed the film among the top releases of the period, although it faced competition from other major theatrical releases. Of the opening weekend total, approximately $3.7 million came from 366 IMAX screens, bringing the film's cumulative North American IMAX earnings to approximately $11.5 million. This achievement made Everest the first September IMAX release to surpass $10 million in North American IMAX revenue. Audience demographics during the North American opening indicated that the film appealed primarily to adventure and survival film audiences. The largest segment of opening weekend viewers was male audiences, who represented approximately 51% of ticket buyers, while younger moviegoers under the age of 35 accounted for around 45% of the audience. The film's marketing emphasized its true story foundation, survival elements, and large-scale cinematic presentation, helping it attract viewers interested in real-life disasters and extreme adventure narratives. Internationally, Everest performed significantly better, benefiting from broad global interest in the story and its multinational cast. The film was released across 65 international markets and opened in 36 markets during its first overseas weekend, earning approximately $28.8 million from 5,154 screens. It debuted as number 1 in 12 countries, with IMAX screenings contributing approximately $3 million to the international opening total. The film's strong overseas launch reflected the universal appeal of its survival narrative and the popularity of its cast members, including Jason Clarke, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Josh Brolin. In its second international weekend, Everest expanded into an additional 22 markets, bringing its total international presence to 62 markets. The film increased its overseas earnings to approximately $33.9 million for the weekend, allowing it to top international box office charts. Among the strongest performing markets was Russia and the Commonwealth of Independent States, CIS, where the film opened with approximately $5.2 million. The United Kingdom, Ireland, and Malta followed with an opening of approximately $4.9 million, while Mexico contributed approximately $4.4 million. Other notable openings included Germany with $2.9 million and Australia with $2.4 million. The United Kingdom became one of the film's strongest international territories, generating approximately $16 million in total box office revenue, while Germany followed with approximately $9.3 million. In the United Kingdom, Everest became the 8th Universal Pictures release of 2015 to surpass £10 million, an achievement previously accomplished by only a small number of major studios in previous years. The film's success in these markets demonstrated the effectiveness of its international marketing campaign and the strong appeal of survival dramas based on real events. The film later expanded into major Asian markets, including China and Japan. Everest opened in China on November 3, 2015, where it earned approximately $11.3 million during its debut, placing it at number 4 at the box office. Despite having access to all available IMAX screens in the market, the film faced significant competition from other Hollywood releases, including Maze Runner, The Scorched Trials and The Peanuts movie, as well as several locally produced Chinese films opening during the same period. The Chinese market ultimately contributed approximately $16 million to the film's worldwide total. In Japan, where the film opened on November 6, 2015, it debuted in 4th place with approximately $1.4 million and eventually earned around $5.1 million overall. Everest concluded its theatrical run with approximately $203.4 million worldwide, making it a financially successful release relative to its moderate production budget. Although its North American performance was modest, the film's strong international earnings, premium format appeal, and successful IMAX presentation helped it recover its production costs and establish itself as one of the notable survival dramas of the mid-2010s. Its commercial performance demonstrated the continued global audience interest in true story disaster films, especially those enhanced by large-scale cinematography and immersive theatrical technologies. Everest received generally positive reviews from critics, with praise particularly directed toward its breathtaking cinematography, immersive large-scale presentation, realistic recreation of extreme climbing conditions, and the performances of its ensemble cast. Reviewers widely recognized the film as a technically impressive survival drama that successfully captured the overwhelming beauty and danger of Mount Everest, especially when viewed in premium formats such as IMAX 3D. Critics frequently highlighted director Baltasar Kormakur's ability to create a convincing sense of scale, using expansive mountain landscapes, practical effects, and intense weather sequences to place audiences in the middle of the climber's struggle. However, some reviewers felt that while the film excelled as a visual spectacle, its character development and dramatic structure were less ambitious, arguing that the emotional storytelling followed familiar disaster film conventions rather than exploring the tragedy with greater complexity. On the review aggregation website Rotten Tomatoes, Everest holds an approval rating of 73% based on 236 critic reviews, with an average rating of 6.7. The site's critical consensus states, Everest boasts all the dizzying cinematography a person could hope to get out of a movie about mountain climbers, even if it's content to tread less challenging narrative terrain. Critics on the platform generally agreed that the film's greatest strength was its visual achievement, particularly the realistic depiction of climbing Everest, the scale of the Himalayan environments, and the intense survival sequences. Many reviewers praised the movie for making audiences feel the physical danger of extreme altitude, freezing temperatures, and unpredictable weather. At the same time, several critics noted that the screenplay relied heavily on conventional disaster movie storytelling, with some characters receiving limited development despite being based on real individuals whose experiences were deeply emotional and complex. On Metacritic, which assigns a weighted average score based on reviews from major publications, Everest received a score of 64 out of 100 based on 39 critics, indicating generally favorable reviews. Critics represented on the site generally praised the film's technical accomplishments, especially its cinematography, sound design, visual effects, and realistic production design. Many reviewers considered the film an impressive theatrical experience that benefited greatly from its IMAX presentation, where the vast landscapes and dangerous climbing sequences created a heightened sense of immersion. However, some critics argued that the film's emotional impact was limited because the large ensemble cast and multiple storylines prevented deeper exploration of certain characters and relationships. Audience response was notably stronger than the overall critical reception. Viewers surveyed by CinemaScore gave Everest an average grade of A on an A+ to F scale, indicating a highly positive reaction from general audiences. Audience members frequently praised the film's suspenseful atmosphere, realistic depiction of survival challenges, emotional performances, and ability to transform a well-known historical disaster into an engaging cinematic experience. Many viewers specifically responded positively to the film's portrayal of teamwork, courage, and sacrifice among the climbers and guides, as well as its ability to communicate the overwhelming power and unpredictability of nature. Despite the generally favorable reception, the film also faced criticism from Jon Clarke, the author of the best-selling memoir Into Thin Air, which documented the 1996 Mount Everest disaster and served as one of the most famous accounts of the tragedy. Clarke publicly criticized the film, arguing that certain events and character portrayals were inaccurate, fabricated, or potentially defamatory. He expressed disappointment that the filmmakers had incorporated elements connected to the disaster without fully representing what he believed to be the realities of the expedition. Clarke also stated that he regretted the earlier decision by Sony Pictures to acquire the rights to his book, suggesting that the resulting adaptation did not accurately reflect his account of the events. Director Baltasar responded to Clarke's criticism by clarifying that the film was not directly based on Into Thin Air and that Clarke's first-person narrative was not used as the primary source material for the screenplay. Clarke argued that the filmmakers relied on a broader range of sources, including multiple first-hand accounts, survivor interviews, and historical research, in order to create a more balanced portrayal of the disaster. He also stated that certain aspects of Clarke's interpretation differed from the filmmakers' understanding of the events, emphasizing that the movie was intended to represent multiple perspectives rather than one individual's account. The controversy surrounding historical accuracy became part of the broader discussion about Everest, particularly regarding the challenges of adapting real-life tragedies into dramatic cinema. While some critics and audiences appreciated the film's respectful treatment of the climbers and its emphasis on human courage, others questioned the creative decisions made when condensing a complex event involving many individuals into a 2-hour feature film. Nevertheless, the majority of reviewers agreed that Everest succeeded as a visually powerful and emotionally engaging survival drama, with its technical achievements and immersive depiction of extreme environments standing as its strongest qualities. Overall, Everest was regarded as a successful example of modern survival filmmaking, praised for delivering a thrilling and visually spectacular experience while maintaining respect for the real-life tragedy that inspired it. Although some critics found the narrative less daring than its subject matter and questioned aspects of its historical interpretation, the film's cinematography, performances, atmosphere, and large-format presentation earned widespread appreciation from both critics and audiences. Review. This article is more than 10 years old. The true-life drama about the disastrous attempt to climb Mount Everest in 1996 delivers neither edge-of-your-seat thrills nor a compelling story. Here is a subdued true-life drama about a calamitous attempt to climb Mount Everest in 1996. It's a film with loads of ice, snow, beards, mountains, beards and men shouting desperate instructions at each other through their snowy beards. The tremulous women folk are pining and whining on the end of a radio receiver or telephone, while the heroic guys battle the elements. Jake Gyllenhaal has a role that turns out to be bafflingly peripheral. The dramatic focus is split between around half a dozen characters, and it's not clear who we should root for or why. Jason Clarke plays Rob Hall, one of the new breed of guides who have made climbing Everest a commercialized big business. There is a virtual traffic jam of well-off middle-aged guys being conducted up to the peak. His followers include part-time postman Doug Hansen, Job Hawks, experienced climber Yasuko Naokomori, and big-talking Texan Beck Weathers, Josh Brolin, who as the catastrophe unfolds has one of the most extraordinary stories of all. Maybe the movie should have been just about him. Everest doesn't deliver the edge of your seat thrills or a centrally compelling story. By the end of this, audiences may feel they have laboriously made it to the summit without getting much of a view.